course, not all parts of national security policy and even foreign policy have to do with nation states. Terrorism is a good example. I remember very clearly that you really wrestled with the terrorism issue in the case of the war in Lebanon. That was in the early 1980s, and you thought a lot about it, and I wonder whether you think the terrorism challenge is the same or just broader challenge or a changed challenge, and what your thoughts are today on the subject.
Well, I thought it was a big problem that we weren't appreciating enough when I was in office, and I made a speech in 1984 that called on us to be ready to use preventive force and to beef up our intelligence and such things. It was nervously received, but I can't say that I appreciated what the terrorism threat was all about then. That is, I didn't appreciate how anchored at least a main element is in an extreme version of Islam using that as a weapon and what their objectives were. But now you see that, and so you see what you have to do, and what do you have to do? A lot of things, but one of them is to learn more about the world of Islam and the variety that's there, and learn how to communicate better. So it isn't just using force somewhere, as in Afghanistan, but it's also interplaying with that a carefully worked out set of messages, I think.
But one of the most controversial issues is the issue of preemption, and people have different things in mind. Afghanistan was, you could say, after the fact, although it would preempt later attacks. But what are your thoughts on preemption? That's a big issue today.
Well, I think it's a no-brainer that you have to use it. But the question is, what are the conditions that surround it? What sort of intelligence do you demand before you're willing to make that kind of a decision? Because it's a big, important decision. And what sort of alliances do you feel you should have in order to have the world with you as you do whatever it is you do, to the extent you can? But in the end, if you see a gathering threat that's clear, you're going to try to stop it, because the consequences are so huge these days. And the nuclear dimension of it, I think, is particularly troublesome.